Only thing that could possibly explain it.
Now, you notice I brought some people over to the front row. You think they're shills, don't you? They know when to laugh. No, they wanted to bring together with family. You know, it's so hard when your family's sitting in the front row to go ahead and come. So I'm glad you came, but I'm expecting absolutely perfect response. Is this music unbelievable? Is this prayer service unbelievable? Is that noise I'm hearing unbelievable? Okay. Since we have that kind of spirit of joy, I'm going to start with a story about an elderly couple. Arnold and his wife were cleaning out the attic one day when he came across a ticket from the local shoe repair shop. The date stamped on the ticket showed that it was 11 years old. They both laughed, as we would all do, and tried to remember which one of them, and if it had been my home, I would have been accusing my wife. She would have said, "Of course, honey, it was me that did this," because she's kinder than I am. Who left these shoes? Why are you shaking your head, Susan? I mean, it was okay for me to say that, but you really didn't have to agree that clearly. Do you think the shoes will still be in the shop? Arnold asked. Not very likely, his wife said. It's worth a try, Arnold said, pocketing the ticket. He went downstairs, hopped into the car, and drove to the store. With a straight face, he handed the ticket to the man behind the counter. With a face just as straight, the man said, "Just a minute. I have to look for these." He disappeared into a dark corner at the back of the store. 2 minutes later, the man called out, "Here they are." "No kidding," Arnold called back. "That's terrific. Who would have thought they'd still be here all this time?" The man came back to the counter empty-handed. "They'll be ready Thursday." Why am I going to tell the rest of my sermon? It's been a pleasure speaking to you today. That was a great intro. Now that I have your attention, shoes over a decade old relate to me as I read this article in the New York Times. It was an interesting article. It was an interview of 12 people in their 70s and 80s. The ages were 71 to 88. Did any of you see the article? One person reads the New York Times. I guess that's what's happening it was a blend of men and women, Republicans and Democrats. It was a series of questions asked of these seniors. Although it did have many questions dealing with politics, which if you want to read the article, you can discover on your own, because I'm not going to go there. They talked about things like age of retirement, Social Security, the age someone should run for office. But what I found most interesting and instructive were the general issues relating to earlier decades in their lives. I believe it is instructive to those who are seniors and those of you who, if blessed, will be seniors someday. They were asked, what decade of life would you say was your favorite? The 1950s, I was in high school. It was a fun time, carefree existence. In my 30s, go overseas on Uncle Sam's dime and enjoy traveling around Europe. I didn't really understand that one. In my 20s, so much to do, just hanging out with friends. It was simpler. It was easier then. Answers included my college years, the years of participation in the civil rights movement. I was in the middle of a revolution I didn't know I was part of. The 60s and 70s, because they had the best music. The participants pointed out to their favorite decades in the past. But I want you to know that I was encouraged to see that there was also a general sense that the so-called golden years have the possibility to be golden. So often talking with my friends, they refer to the tarnish and not the shine of that period of life. They talked about freedom of worry and struggle. Best decade of my life, said an 80-year-old. People should look forward to the future, said Francis, 83. I'm just going to make memory after memory. The best thing about getting older, wisdom comes with age. I have interests that make me wonder how I ever found time to work. By the way, I hear that quite often. Then the other side. Look forward to the aches and pains from Elizabeth, who was 82 years old. Seniors pointed out to the changes they'd experienced in their lifetime: running water, technology, awareness of concern about conserving the environment. Something, when I was growing up, I never even talked about. We never even thought about. And then I did like, especially, 88-year-old William. He responded, I've seen so many things change, especially with phones. My daughter is on vacation in Vietnam, and we text back and forth just like she was in the next room. It's amazing. If there's a negative about it, it's that as soon as you take something out of the box, it's obsolete already. They were asked, any other changes that are there that are for the worse? I don't think people want to serve their country. Take a deep breath and think about that. I don't think people really want to be involved and engaged the way perhaps those of our greatest generation were engaged, because they were devoted and dedicated and committed to seeing this land be a great land. And it was not about hoping someone else was going to do it. They were involved. Another one said, we've forgotten how to be our brother's keeper. Wow. We've forgotten how to talk to each other. We've forgotten how to communicate openly and honestly without hostility. The answers of this select group of seniors recognize the importance of having saved for retirement, so start early, the blessing of reasonably good health. And although mentioned, they did not focus, because the questions didn't take them there, on the passage of years that include for all of us the deaths of loved ones and friends, so many losses. What is or will be the best decade in all of our lives? A significant question. I think we all have to ask it. The most optimistic among us can answer, it's still about to unfold. 3 participants, when asked, what do you hope will be better for Gen Z than it was for your generation, responded, we'll find that there'll be more kindness, tolerance. And a third said, they're going to be worse off. Predicting the future is impossible. There is a constant tension between those who are optimistic and those who are pessimistic. I loved this definition and the twist at the end. An optimist says the glass of wine is. The pessimist says it's half. This is better than going up and down with you guys. And the realist says it's not one or the other, but exactly halfway filled. Meanwhile, while the 3 are arguing, the opportunist comes along and drinks the entire glass of wine. I love that. We live during challenging times. When didn't people live during times that are filled with challenge? For all of us who are part of the Jewish community, there are optimists in the Jewish world who say, we see the possibility of peace in the Middle East. They speak in terms of Jewish history, not unfolding in the past, but simply about accomplishments, not as a series of wars and intifadas and governments that sometimes we like and sometimes we abhor. The focus on the birth of a remarkable country is the optimist looking to the future, our history coming to life, And we are celebrating that 75th, and you walk out of here quietly because there's a celebration going on in the sanctuary. Don't miss the museum on the left side, my left side over here as you walk out. Pictures of congregants who've been together in Israel, celebrating the beauty of a land that we cannot believe exists today. If you're old enough, you've lived long enough to understand that although anti-Semitism is increasing, we are now in a position to fight back. We don't hide. We don't sit quietly. If there are older seniors, they lived through World War II and recall the Holocaust. They challenge us never to forget to stay strong as we look to the future, and each one of us light our own candle of Yizkor, of memorial. Now, I was not included in the group that was interviewed by the New York Times. They made a big mistake. I am not sure how I would have answered the questions, but I really did enjoy the article because the participants were from different backgrounds and held varied political views. My friends perhaps would agree that I tend to lean to the positive and the optimistic side. With all of the problems in our country, in our world, I believe that we can create for our children, and especially for our grandchildren, a better world, a better life, a better future than even we experienced at the happiest of moments. So if you are a senior, find hope and inspiration. And a lot of the answers that were shared in the article, if you look forward to becoming a senior, know that you will have to overcome obstacles on your way to what will be a truly meaningful and hopefully fulfilling old age. By the way, looking for old tickets from a shoe store that maybe you have in your home is not really important, but a hidden lottery ticket that is a winner, that is truly worth finding. Shabbat Shalom.